How's it going, everybody? Clayton here at eTrailer.Com. Here at eTrailer.com, we install, test, and review a lot of different products to help you as a customer make a more educated decision before your purchase. Today we're going to be working on a 2017 Chevy Colorado. We're going to be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit. Our diode wiring is going to be one of the key components in our flat towing setup. We're going to have our diode wiring, of course, our supplemental braking system, our tow bar, our base plate, our safety cables, our stoplight switch, and our battery disconnect. And in our case, we do have a 4-inch high-low adapter and some safety cable extensions. Now this will vary depending on your RV. You just want to measure the height on your base plate and the height on your hitch for your RV. You just want to make sure that those numbers are within 3 inches. And if it's not, you can buy the according high-low adapter here at eTrailer.com. Our diode wiring is going to allow us to travel safely on the roadway by using all of these signals from our motorhome and portraying those back on our truck. So that's going to keep everybody safe behind us, and they're going to know what we're doing. We're going to get our stop and turn signals and our taillight signals. You might be looking at other options or considering the diodes, but honestly the diodes are a great option. It's going to keep all of our lighting functions inside of our taillight. We're not going to have those magnetic lights sticking all over the back of our truck, and especially here we have a camper shell. A lot of times those aren't metal, so it's going to be hard to get our magnets to stick up top. This is just going to look a lot cleaner and give us that same use of our factory taillight. This part is going to be permanently installed into our Colorado's taillights, so you don't have to worry about it down the road. Simply make your connections and go on with your life. You still get to use your taillights the same way, and then whenever we hook up to flat tow, that lighting is just going to go right through our taillight. It's going to be a really easy wiring system to live with. The diodes are pretty cool. They're going to prevent backfeed from our wiring, so we don't have to worry about the diodes actually ruining our factory lighting. And the way they plug in, we still get to retain the use of our factory setup. In our case, our diode wiring does get tapped into our supplemental braking system, so you do want to keep that in mind when choosing a supplemental braking system. You can find one for your Colorado here at eTrailer.com. In terms of installation, getting the diodes installed really isn't that bad. The hardest part is going to be running our wiring from the front of our truck to the back. With that being said, I'll go ahead and show you how to install them now. To start our installation, it's going to be pretty easy if we have the front fascia pulled off, but if you don't, you'll just have to run your wiring through there. Now I'm going to run our wiring from front to back, just to leave us a little bit extra in the back, so we don't have to try to run it all the way up to the front. Then we have just a bunch of extra wire in the front. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tie off quite a bit on the front, then run it through the frame rail. I'll go ahead and do it, then we'll show you the route we took. Here's where I tied that wire off in the front, run it up and over this way, and then up behind this pillar here, and between our washer tank and our headlight. I just ran it up there because we do have to leave a little bit to make a connection to our braking system. So it goes up there. I just zip tied a little bit off and then ran it back down our firewall right here. You can see it behind this panel. Then I just tucked it into the frame, pulled it all the way through the frame, all the way back here. And then I pulled it out on this side of our frame rail and up along this wiring. And what I did was ran it around our body mount and over this way. Now it is important, you want to stay out of the way of anything hot or moving. So it comes out of our frame rail up there, then it comes up and over here with our factory wiring. And I ran it back this way, up and over our frame, and dumped it out here. That way we can run it up to our taillight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and zip tie all of this down and add wire loom anywhere needed. With our wires running out the back, we just want to split these apart. I'm just going to use a razor knife and cut back this insulation. You want to make sure not to cut the wire while you're doing so. Our yellow and brown wire are what we're going to use to run up to our driver's side. So we'll go ahead and lower the truck down and remove our taillight. Now we're going to grab our T15 Torx bit. We're going to remove 2 bolts holding in our taillight. With those removed, simply just pull out on our tail lamp assembly. Pull out on our tail lamp assembly and disconnect our wiring. Now we'll disconnect all of our lights. We're just going to want to turn them and then pull these sockets out. Just like so. And now we can set our assembly off to the side. We do have a couple options here for how we can use our diodes. I think I'm going to use the bottom light our turn and our brake lights are both going to come in on the top and bottom light bulb. So we can use the bottom, and that's just going to help us hide all of our wiring. Now what we're going to do is pull off our tape here and strip back our wire loom. Our orange wire is going to be our taillight signal, and our gray wire is going to be our stop and turn signal. Now we want to get those wires ran up. We can grab our brown and yellow wire. Now I'm going to use a pull wire to get these pulled through, but honestly you can just do it with your hand. We're just going to do this because it's a little bit easier than having to crawl back underneath the truck. You can also use just a string or a coat hanger or anything you might have laying around. Get these pulled through and take our electrical tape off. Now we want to cut both wires. Try to cut them around the same length. We'll strip back our yellow wire. We're actually going to strip back our brown wire pretty far. For our brown wire, we're going to be using our yellow connector. We want to add an extra wire to use as a jumper wire to get our taillight signal to the passenger side. So I went ahead and stripped back that extra wire, and we're just going to twist these together. We'll trim off the excess. And we'll add our yellow connector and crimp it down. Let's drop our extra brown wire back down through the hole, and we'll deal with that later. Now we want to grab one of our diodes. We're going to plug that into the inside of our diode. Now we want to grab our orange wire. We'll pull that back. We're going to cut that wire, just like so. We'll strip back both sides. And then we'll add our blue spade connectors to each of these. We're going to use the part of our wire off of our harness as the in signal, and then the side going to our bulb is going to be our out signal. So we'll plug that into the outside of our diode, just like so. And I'll grab another spade connector to add to the yellow wire that we cut. We'll crimp that down. Then we want to cut our gray wire. We'll cut our gray wire and strip back both sides like we did before. We'll add a spade connector to our gray wires, just like so. Now we can add our diode. We'll plug our one gray wire into the in signal, and then our yellow wire, and then our gray wire going to our light bulb. We now want to remove the covering of our two-sided tape on the back of our diodes. You can either stick these to your truck or stick them together. I like to stick them together like so. Then what we're going to do is run a zip tie around there. This is just going to help hold them together for a long time. And then what we're going to do next is actually drop our diodes back behind here, and I'm just going to run a zip tie through the zip tie that I just put on our diodes like so. This will keep it from bouncing around and it'll help hold it in one spot. We're now ready to reinstall our taillights. And we'll push our taillight assembly back into place. And now we can reinstall those two bolts. Now we need to ground our white wire. We're just going to measure it off and ground it right next to where our other ground is. So we'll cut that wire. Now we can strip it back. We can grab our provided ring terminal and crimp that down onto our ground wire. We can now grab our provided self-tapping screw and just self-tap our ground wire into our frame rail. And I have to extend our wires to get enough length to get over to our passenger side taillight. For our running light wire, I used yellow, and I was able to find another green wire for our green wire. Now we're going to use a heat shrink butt connector. If you don't have any, you can find them here at eTrailer.Com. Now we're just going to add some electrical tape to help ensure a good connection for a long time. We're now ready to run our wires over to the passenger side. And to run our wires over to the passenger side, I just zip tied it to our factory wiring and followed that all the way over. Then pushed it up and over our frame right here, and then zip tied it to our wiring on the other side. We now want to remove the taillight on the passenger side the same way that we did over on the driver's side. We'll drop our airline tube down and then pull up our wiring. We're going to be using our gray and orange wire again on the passenger side, so we'll make those same connections that we did over on the driver's side. Now grab our diode, we'll plug in our out signals, and then we can grab our wires and plug those in. We can now clean up our wiring the same way that we did over on the driver's side. When we add our wires to our plug, we just strip them back, use a small Phillips head screwdriver, and push them into this fitting. They are going to be labeled with each function for each wire. Now, we did have to grab a long bracket to mount our wiring. If you'd want to do it this way, you can find one here at eTrailer.com. This is a no-drill bracket, so we didn't have to drill into the bumper beam or anything. It's going to sit really nice in our air dam opening. You just want to wrap electrical tape around there and just seal it up completely. Now I just want to grab our mounting hardware and screw in our plug to our bracket. Then extra the hands, we can reinstall our fascia. With our diodes hooked up to our alternate power source, we can test out our lighting functions. We'll start off with our taillights, and we'll do our left turn, our brake lights, and our right turn. With our front fascia reinstalled and our wiring hooked up to our RV, we're now ready to hit the road. That's going to conclude our look at the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit on our 2017 Chevy Colorado.